Hello, and welcome to another fully live Friday episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Cody Kinsey. I am a security researcher at Varonis, and today we have our crypto expert, Michael, here to join us.
Cryptozoology, not the coins. Don't ask me about them.
Okay, I'm sorry. There is a very big debate in the hacker community about what crypto means. A lot of people feel like it means cryptocurrency. An even larger amount of people feel like it means cryptography, but a fringe radical group also insists that it means cryptozoology, which of course is a study of Bigfoot-like animals. So if you have any cryptozoology related questions, please refer them to Michael. If you have any cryptocurrency related questions, neither of us know anything about that. So just want to settle that debate. For once and all, crypto means cryptozoology. Please get it straight, you guys. All right, so it's great to see everyone here today. Also, big shout out to Zam for providing me with a couple additional stories that we're going to go over. And we've had a really busy week. I have done some work with my friend Stefan on creating a honeypot access point, which is really cool, that we debuted on Hack5 and also covered the beginning portions of on the live stream. So we're going to go over that as well as some news stories that have happened, and hopefully, yeah, it'll be a good time. So let's go ahead and take a look at the obvious story that you guys probably heard. Immediately after we signed off last time, the United States, amongst other companies, were hit with a giant, massive attack that was basically propagated by attacking a company that serviced all these other companies and then propagating the attack downwards. So yeah, it was pretty obvious that the attackers waited until the 4th of July weekend to make this happen because, Michael, what happens on the 4th of July weekend in the United States?
Well, all of your employees go home for the holidays, and most of them are going to take a 3 or 4 day weekend. In this case, most of them probably took Friday off or left early, at least Friday. So yeah, I think a lot of companies were caught off guard because I think a lot of companies prepare for ransomware to some degree, but they don't really calculate half my employees aren't going to be in, or some substantial portion of my employees aren't going to be in.
Yeah, so this attack did have somewhat limited success. Michael, do you know why?
Sorry, can you rephrase the question?
Do you know why this attack had somewhat limited success?
No.
Well, I'm going to tell you. So
Okay.
The way that this attack was propagated was that the attackers were basically inside this network or inside this company's system and had exploited a vulnerability that would allow them to deliver a payload to all these customers. But the company was so close to patching this. They basically already knew about the vulnerabilities. They were on their way. They had developed a patch, and they were about to roll it out. So they were going through the normal disclosure process with a researcher, and they were working on rolling out a fix and making sure it was applied. But if they were already lurking inside the company, it's very likely that the threat actors were able to figure out that this was going to be patched.
Ooh.
So they rushed it, and they pulled the trigger on this massive attack without it fully being ready because the remote attack vector was about to be closed.
That explains a lot, actually, because when I was doing my reporting for a ransomware article, I realized, they weren't prepared to accept all the ransoms. They had to come out with this, pay us $70 million and we'll just, decrypt all of the companies. It's clearly, you weren't ready to accept the amount of money and reward that you were going after there.
Yeah, well, it seems like a lot of companies are not paying the ransom. And the reason for that is kind of related to what they weren't able to do in this attack. So this attack was able, so basically the technical side of this is they were able to poison the download that would be automatically run by this remote program that was on all these different devices. But they didn't have any good way of detecting and deleting or eradicating connected backups. So because they didn't have a good way of going after the fallback systems, any company that was employing best practices and actually had a backup system, even if they didn't really secure it all that well, was probably still okay and was able to restore from backups. So, I mean, if this was done, the way that they probably wanted it to be done, then you would have had to have everything perfect. in order to avoid being seriously in trouble from this attack. But fortunately, because they weren't able to make this attack as sophisticated as they probably wanted to, it means that the impact of this attack was less so for companies who had that backup in place, because it just frankly wasn't able to detect and attack it the way that previous attacks have done, which makes them more devastating. So, I mean, is this a huge attack? Yes. Are there going to be a subsection of businesses that didn't have backups or some system that would allow them to recover from this? Yes. So definitely there are still some companies who are experiencing serious problems and are making payments or otherwise trying to figure out what to do. But the vast majority of companies that did do things the correct way, that maybe like audited themselves after the last attack, they have some sort of monitoring service or system or whatever to be able to either attack this, catch this attack in progress, or respond to it by restoring from backups. And either one of those would have seriously helped out in the event of this attack. So basically the message is here, if you follow best practices, they will protect you to some degree. It's really common for people to be told, like, make sure you have offline backups, or make sure you're doing backups that aren't network accessible. Because one of the targets here was amongst other, well, actually no, sorry, I was about to conflate it with a different attack. But if you have like a domain controller or something else that's hit, and then you kind of have access to everything and can start reconfiguring things and going after backups. But because it seemed like this was kind of a one-way attack, they weren't really able to establish like a remote backdoor to these systems and then exploit them further. It was just kind of a one fire and forget kind of attack. It seems like it could have been a lot worse. So while this attack was pretty crazy, it's still something that, again, could have been worse if the attack was more sophisticated and had more time to succeed. But it was a race against the clock because researchers had already reported the vulnerabilities, and this was going to be fixed like super, super soon. But
well, the spooky thing is it feels like every week or every other week we're talking about some new big ransomware attack. Like, get your stuff together, people. Like, like, it's not like you don't know these things are going to happen. Like, they're happening every week. It's just an inevitability that I feel like every company is going to at least get attacked. Like, it's up to you to make sure you got your stuff locked down and you're ready to defend.
Yeah, so of course I had to cover that because like that popped up almost immediately after we left last time, and it was absolutely wild. A lot of companies are still recovering from this or otherwise trying to figure out what to do after being hit by this sort of thing. So there's a lot of kind of fallout that's still left to be felt from this attack because it's still very early. But yeah, absolutely huge and very crazy. So if you guys are into racing, you might have gotten a little suggestion. I should check my security. Smiley face. So the sideways smiley face tells me that this was potentially hacked by a millennial. Because there's no emoji here, so I don't think it was made by a Zoomer or a Boomer. But I'm just speculating on who the culprit was here. I haven't seen any follow-up reports on them catching this person, so if they were caught, please let me know, because I'm curious to test my theory.
I was going to say, that's some, like, pro-level, like, analysis there.
Yeah, the funny thing, though, is, like, every person that likes sports that I know immediately sent me a screen grab of them receiving this message. So, like, this was a widespread message that was received by lots of people. It just kind of goes to show that even with kind of a niche app like the Formula One app, like I would be like, how many people would actually go through the trouble of downloading the Formula One app? Well, it turns out a lot because there were a lot of eyeballs on this. So I don't know if somebody attacked like the Wendy's app, it would probably go out to millions of people. So kind of just goes to show how when you have notifications enabled for an app like this, you can really reach a lot of people with just some random message, even for a platform that you wouldn't expect would reach that many people. Because again, I found out about this message nearly instantly because like 4 different people that like Formula One all sent me screenshots of it. So
yeah, that is something else that's interesting. I'm seeing more and more like SMS spam messages and attacks.
Well, this was
happening.
This was a notification launched by the Formula One app.
So
you had to have the Formula One app installed in order for this to happen to you. Which again, like no real harm done here. It's just they just said foo, like, whatever. It's not like they said like warning, the cars have been hit by nuclear missiles. You gotta like get into the bunker, like whatever. Like so this could have been a lot worse. It could have been like Formula One is investing in cryptozoology coins, and you can buy your Bigfoot bucks today if you send your credit cards to this link or whatever.
You could say Formula One wasn't exactly racing to fix the issue.
That was painful.
I'm sorry. Zam said it in the comments, and I was that is a great comment.
Wow, thank you, Zam. That was a serious contribution. I appreciate that. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Now that I've derailed that topic, let's move on to the next.
Yeah. All right. Let's go. So there was a tweet that went out from, let's just say, a security conference I've attended in the past, which is a great security conference. They're so good. We love them. But this was universally panned in the security community. It was proposing replacing TCP/IP with the blockchain. So, I think Michael is particularly triggered by this because so many people think that he's a cryptocurrency expert, when in fact, it's a completely different field. So. No, blockchain is not always the answer. This post was removed and apologized for, and it was just great. So I'm all for hilarious posts, but when they're unintentionally hilarious, that's the best part. But yeah, a lot of people, let's just say, didn't didn't like that. So it's not often you see like a tweet that has to be immediately taken down and apologized for in the security community. But this one wasn't like on its face offensive. It was just unintentionally hilarious. So if you miss this one, the internet never forgets.
Another interesting point there, though, is like, what is like the best way to document tweets when they go down? Like, is there like Wayback Machine for tweets?
Oh no, that's a great question. So I grabbed this because I had already loaded the tweet.
Okay.
And when it was deleted, it just said failed to load tweet at the bottom here. But yeah, like as soon as the tweet goes down there, so there are bots that will automatically follow politicians and archive every deleted tweet. So it's one of my favorite websites actually, because you can see like misspelled stuff that was like obviously posted to the wrong account by an intern that's like way too casual, like just like stuff that like politicians are just like, oh shit, like that shouldn't be up there. So there's bots that are pointed at specific accounts, but as far as I know, there's nobody that follows like everyone, records every tweet, and then allows it to be archived. Although if
there's a bored developer out there, idea for you.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of data space. So.
Yeah. If you've got a spare data center somewhere.
Yeah, if you got a couple of petabytes free.
All right, so we had Michael engineer a mortar cannon in order to celebrate the 4th of July. And as you can see here, the performance is
It's a semi-submersible mortar.
Right, so this was designed to be fired on a lake because where we live, it's perfectly legal to launch these fireworks on the 4th of July. And I will say that this was a terrible design. It caused absolute chaos.
I'm sorry, sir. Where's your design?
If you were ever going to be doing anything like this, I do not recommend doing it this way. That being said, it was a great time. Singed some stuff on the kayak, but aside from that, this tipping over to the side and firing at another boat was probably the most exciting part of the night, as well as drowning several shells when it tipped over and went underwater. All right, so don't do that, but happy 4th of July. So we work a lot with Maltego, and one of my favorite things about Maltego is how it's able to visualize complicated stuff. So one graph I really liked was visualizing the REvil supply chain attack. And
okay, wait, is it REvil or is it REvil? Tell us in the chat below.
Yeah, well, according to Shannon Morse from Hack5, who I listened to say this, I believe, then it's REvil. And also everyone from Varonis who's been forced to say it out loud. So I'm just going to go with everybody else who said it out loud and not
But
make any
Camel Case would suggest that it is REvil.
Yeah, but that's assuming it's Camel Case. Maybe their caps lock was stuck.
Okay.
Whatever. But as you can see here, Maltego's really good at being able to figure out, what elements were involved and have specific icons for them that make it really easy to understand, like, what happened. So if you want a visualization of what happened, this is a pretty good way of kind of breaking down the graph. And you can see, you can make it more complicated to show, like, more data and more different confirmed cases. It's just a way that you can take something that, like, if I was just verbally explaining it to you, it would be very hard. But this is a good way you can quickly create a graph or something that shows people a pretty complicated attack and all the entities involved while making specific icons for the different types of entities. So it's really easy to understand what we're talking about. Because if these were all the same icon, like, I would have no idea what was going on.
That's what I've always said about Maltego, is if you need to make a report or infographics or anything like that, this should be the first tool on your list, because it is great for that sort of thing, especially when you're trying to explain things to lay people who may not understand what these different entities are. If they can just follow an arrow, it's a lot easier. Yeah,
so you have, like, files that are involved. You have like malicious agents. You have a Windows Defender recognition. You have CVE. You have IP addresses involved in the attack. And then you also have managed service providers here that you can see listed along with this little cluster here that all seems to be working with an unknown third party. So like there's a great way to visualize this stuff, and Maltego is a good place to start if you want to be able to explain this attack to other people, or if you're doing an analysis and need to do a report. Highly recommend it because this was super cool and provided one of the most clear explanations of how this attack was propagated.
And there is a community edition available for Maltego, correct? So people can try it for free.
Yes. I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and also if you're a journalist or some nonprofit or something like that, you can always reach out to Maltego and see if you can get the paid edition for free as well.
Yeah, you can always reach out. Cool. So I like to point out really good resources, and our good friend Stefan has been making a series of videos on Wi-Fi hacking and deauthing, or using the Wi-Fi deauther, which is really excellent. If you want to check it out on his YouTube channel, oh god, it's going to play here too. You can do so here on the Spacehoon channel, and this one is the off command. So this goes through basically how you can use all the features in the Wi-Fi deauthor, and it's really useful if you've ever wondered what one of these features is. In this case, I believe the off command we're talking about is looking for devices attempting to authenticate to a certain SSID, and this would be very, very useful for a variety of different hacking applications. It just is kind of like a cybersecurity building block educational tutorial. So if you're,
I was going to say, as someone that's been doing thumbnails recently, I really appreciate that thumbnail. It looks cool.
Oh yeah, it's
with the little floating space chicken and the little laptop.
Yeah, it's very clean.
And then also, they wanted you to drop the Maltego link thing in the chat.
For this?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'll do it. Don't even worry about it, you guys.
I was going to say, I can go here.
Yeah, and also thank you to everyone live in the chat today. I always love doing these when I see a little bit of feedback. Boop, there you go. So yeah, you can see how this Maltego graph was built. I'm going to be doing more content on Maltego in the pretty near future. I really enjoy using this sort of thing for just visualizing stuff that otherwise is just too complicated to really explain to lay people or people who are pressed for time.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go through the next thing I was told about via text. So apparently this was a message people were getting on their phones. Hello, I am UK government. You need to pay £1,500 iTunes gift card to me, or you under the rest, which is a terrible place to be.
Yeah. Is that like under the eaves?
No, I think that they.
Oh, they mean like locked up.
Under the rest. Yeah.
I see.
You're gonna be under the rest.
Okay.
So, wow. You don't see a lot of phishing scams that are like this easy to detect, but like this was just a great one. I really appreciated this. So if you receive this one, please let me know. I'm trying to figure out if this was just to the UK or like how localized this was, but yeah. Not often you get a demand from the government threatening to put you under the rest.
I would seriously think that SMS and stuff would have a rate limit that you can only send so many texts to so many people simultaneously.
It depends on how many SIM cards you have.
I guess that's true.
Or how many numbers you have.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm pointing it out again because I'm still really proud of this. Stefan and I collaborated to create a access point which provides internet and also has a fake FTP server on it, which when accessed will trigger a canary token. So it's basically a standalone ESP8266 based honeypot that all you need to do is connect back to a Wi-Fi network if you want it to actually offer internet, and anybody who then breaks into it and accesses that FTP server will trigger an alert. So it's a great kind of thing to put on the perimeter of your network if you want to be able to see if anybody's out there trying to break in. Of course, you don't need to connect it to your network if you don't want to. You can also just have it a standalone AP. But if you want to make it look like a real router, or again, if you hate someone and want to, when they come over to your house, just give them that network and tell them that is your router, then it would be hilarious because they would just wonder how you live that way with such a slow internet connection.
Yeah.
Either way, very useful. Cool.
I'm getting news from a source. Spacehoon's Navigator beta is down.
Yes, this is something that could happen. Probably because it's a beta. So stand by for the official launch. It's going to be more around DEF CON. Until then, it might be a little bit spotty just because, we're still working on it and developing it. So it's still not officially totally public. So you may see on the beta versions a little bit of, irregularity. But on this project, it's fully up and working. The only thing that's kind of funny is it seems like Canary Token is having a problem with Google Maps. Like when you try to load the maps
Oh, yeah.
to show like where an IP address like generally is, it encounters like a weird API token error that says that like they've been repeatedly contacted by Google and warned about using their API. So it seems like there's some.
They're probably trying to use the API for free, but then going over the number of limit you can do for free.
That's kind of what I feel like is happening. So right now it seems like the Google Maps feature of Canary tokens is like offline, so you can't like easily map where the things are, but you can still see like relatively where they are. It's just like kind of a funny like weird thing that's happened over the last week. But yeah, so this is really cool because for $3 you can have this honeypot out there and warn you when someone connects to it. And tries to get into the FTP server. There were some really good questions as well. Like one of them was, can you just have it trigger when someone joins the network? That's a really good question. The problem that I found is most of the methods of detecting whether or not a device is actually connected to an access point generated by an ESP8266 have this weird bug where if I try to connect my, like for example, my computer or my phone to the network with the wrong password, it'll still for a couple of seconds count the device as successfully connected. So if it's trying a couple times, then it could, suddenly say there's one device connected for like up to a minute or two while it's repeatedly trying to connect, which is not true. The device doesn't know the password, so it hasn't actually connected. So it's a little actually tricky to write something that accurately detects like when a device successfully connects with the correct password versus when it connects, with the wrong password and gets bounced. Off the top of my head, I could think of a couple ways to do it, like having a captive portal and then logging when someone actually gets served the captive portal. But it's still when they first join the network, they're automatically redirected to it. And that way you could kind of detect when someone joins it. But it still is an odd problem to have while coding this because it was my first instinct to include that. Another question was, could you include the MAC address instead of the IP address of the device that attempted to join? I'm like, that would actually be way more useful, right? Because the IP address is just assigned by the honeypot, so who cares? The MAC address would let us actually track the device potentially.
And you're pinging the IP to verify that it's actually there?
What do you mean?
No, I'm just sorry. I was just transferring Sam's question, but yeah, you were saying the device isn't showing up on the network, or was I mishearing?
Which device isn't showing up on the network?
Never mind.
Okay,
I'm lost. I'm lost.
Yeah. So like this is overall a project that is super, super simple to set up. And if you have a device that is joining that network and then like joining the FTP server, you know for a fact that they're poking around as opposed to just, joining.
Gotcha.
So like the difference here would be like, do you want to detect people who are just joining random Wi-Fi networks? Or do you want to detect people who are actually trying to break into stuff? And the FTP server login, I think, is probably, although one thing we noticed in the Hack 5 version of this was it was triggering even when we tried to connect to the FTP server with the wrong password. So this is an interesting kind of weird side effect I wasn't anticipating, and it might require a little bit of debugging to be able to differentiate between the two. So as you can see, the trigger mechanism is a little finicky, and that's something we're still working on, but at least if you try to connect to the FTP server, it will trigger, which is the purpose of the whole thing. So still
Gotcha.
a really cool library, and this took like less than a day to slap together between an example Arduino sketch and the library that we've already covered in a previous stream, the ESP Canary. So creating a standalone device as opposed to having this as a peripheral device or client device, that's just a spider.
Oh gosh,
There's
there's
just a
a
little-
spider
Oh, it's like a baby
right
spider.
on.
Don't bring it over to
Oh.
me. You can have that stuff yourself.
Okay.
Like having a standalone device that does this on its own that creates its own network is, in my opinion, really cool. As opposed to having like an accessory device which like connects to an access point and then has to sit there like just.
I'm
being
sorry, I
honeypot
have
by itself.
to remove this
It's-
threatening
It's
animal.
Fine.
Insect.
I don't care about this spider. Just don't put it in my face. I don't care. Just leave it. Oh, great. Now it's on.
No, it's on my laptop.
All right, cool. So let's go on to Getter. So looks like there are some security issues with Getter. Getter being the successor to like Parler and some of those other like.
How do they even keep up with these social media websites?
They go down, they go up, they go down, they go up.
It seems like there's a new one every week.
Yeah, so as you can see, it seems like Jubba Baghdad was here and was able to successfully change everyone's
That's
name.
great.
Yeah, and was just like leaving a bunch of like pro-Palestine messages. Hilarious. There was also a data breach, which we'll get into a little later, in which the profiles were scraped. And because the API was not secured, it allowed you to get more information that was actually displayed on the web version of this. And somebody scraped this information and then leaked it. So, not having a good time, this social media platform. So if you're a big nerd, I really like the Amp Hour podcast. And one of the things they were featuring today, or not today, a couple days ago, was dumping and extracting the SpaceX Starlink terminal, user terminal. So really cool project. I don't know why it needs to go through Reddit, because this immediately takes us to a more interesting website right here. But as you can see, if you want to take a look at this process, sure. No.
Don't you love GDPR?
No. If you want to see how it's possible to like glitch out and dump the firmware from something as sophisticated as like a Starlink terminal, this is an amazing teardown article. I read the entire thing because it was just kind of riveting to see like how they do this. So not going to go into the full guide here. There's multiple different teardowns that show, you know, the PCB and some of the other really interesting tech inside this thing. But looking at how they were able to find the test points, how they were able to connect to them, and how they were able to do a lot of interesting things with trying to figure out. So my favorite thing about this is it's geo-locked. So there's a fuse set on this device that makes it so as soon as it goes out the facility, they set the fuse and it's no longer able to be logged into. If the fuse is unset, then it does allow you to log into a user.
So could you just replace the fuse?
Yeah, well, they thought of you, Michael. So it's also geo-locked. So they made it so that if you re-enable the fuse and you're not inside one of these approved locations that
That's pretty clever.
operates, then it will lock you out, call the police, and initiate an orbital strike.
I don't believe you anymore.
I'm just saying, like, basically all of SpaceX's Starlink satellites will lock onto you and begin frying you with radiation at the same time. It's how they deal with pirates. Just saying, it's the future.
Okay.
What do you expect? You got a satellite network of radiating antennas, which are like phased arrays that could be pointed anywhere, and you don't think that they're going to get mad when you try to outsmart them?
They could just take one of the ones that's like getting towards the end of life and just
slam
like,
it into you.
Yeah, deorbit it right into my house.
Yeah, but it would be easier for them to just microwave you from miles up. So yeah, really, really cool teardown. I'm not going to again go too much into it because it's a pretty technical breakdown. But yeah, really fascinating to see how this works, and also some of the countermeasures against being able to break into this. The geofencing is really like, how are you going to hide from that? You're literally connecting to satellites.
Oh yeah, and so it uses the satellites, not just GPS built in.
Why would it use GPS when it literally has to connect to satellites as its job?
That's great, because if it did have GPS, then I would just say put it in a Faraday cage and you can spoof the GPS pretty easily. But that makes it a lot harder.
Yeah, it does. It does, which is
because then you would have to reverse engineer the entire Starlink connection and then try to fake that somehow.
Yeah, so, okay, I have no evidence to suggest that Starlink would actually, or SpaceX would actually begin, microwaving you from the sky if you were to access this. But it does look like they will at least be notified if the hardware is used outside of the predefined geofences. So that's something worth noting, because if you're messing around with this, you will probably have somebody talking to you about it. I just want to say, if you're going to send me a marketing email offering to buy me a coffee, and I look at your website and then reply with my Venmo, don't then tell me that you're not actually going to give me the coffee, because I will call you a catfish, and that's the end of that.
A caffeine
catfish. Yeah. So our friend Will Dorman put out a initially confusing but then very clarifying graph on how the Print Nightmare exploit vulnerability works. So this is the one I was about to say earlier, targets domain controllers in particular, which is super bad. And this is kind of the flow of the attack. So first, Print Nightmare. Is the spooler disabled? If it is disabled, it's not vulnerable. Great, you're done. But if the spooler is not disabled, then has the patch been installed? Yes. Okay. Well, that actually doesn't fix it. So it's still possible to have a variable set to 0, and then if it's allowed in access mode, then it is locally exploitable, and potentially remotely exploitable if remote printing is not disabled. So even if you've installed this update, it is still possible to get to remotely exploitable. So that is not good. As you can see here, the most common path though would be you don't have the update installed, you have access mode enabled, which allows it to be locally exploitable, and then if you have remote printing disabled, and especially if the printer is shared, if the firewall is disabled or vulnerable, if there's folder sharing turned on, or notably, if the target is a domain controller, then it is extremely exploitable, and it is remotely exploitable as well as locally exploitable, which is very, very bad. So thank you to Will Dorman for making this so easy to understand. Again, like the way that this works is difficult for people to understand when they're just like, is my stuff vulnerable? Like, what is the issue? So yeah, this is a really clear breakdown of the way that the Print Nightmare vulnerability works. So if you want to learn more about it, definitely check this out. I think we covered some other stuff on the Print Nightmare last time, but this is the best technical breakdown I've seen of exactly how this works. All right, so if you want to see the video that I mentioned earlier, check out Hack 5. We just launched this video yesterday. Oh, look, it's me in front of my 3D printer.
Oh, and look at these beautiful new thumbnails that just magically appeared.
Oh yeah, Michael made this thumbnail. He's very proud. Oh yeah, on the Security Forward channel too. But yeah, so if you want to check this out on Hack 5, it is a very short 12-minute breakdown on how to get set up with this project, and only 8 people hate it, and 1,000 people are ready to beat them up. So
we do not condone violence on the show.
1001. But yeah, so I'm really happy with this video. I think it's still, this is just a super cool project. So if you want a honeypot, if you want to catch people trying to break into your system, grab one of these. So I am a Patreon sponsor of Patrick Wardle and Objective-C because they make such awesome stuff and they do such great security research. And their tools are designed to work on a macOS system to kind of heuristically look for behaviors that are indicative to malware. So it's something that it has to do in order for it to survive, propagate, communicate back to a C2 server. So the next Mac OS malware that I was been reading about from this report was OS X Wild Pressure. So let's see, it's still undetectable by all AV agents on VirusTotal. And you can see that the indicators of compromise here, if you have Patrick Wardle's tools installed on your macOS system, which I do, and I highly recommend if you have a macOS system, you do as well, is this block alert, which is one of the things that you can have installed that warns you that Python is installing a launch agent. And this is something that's going to like launch every single time you start the computer. What's funny, Chuckles?
Chuckles?
Yeah, you got a comment over there?
Yeah, I'm just reading the comments, yeah. They're making jokes about the 8 people that hated the video.
Oh, yeah. Punks.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I have 1,000 people that disagree. So another indicator of compromise here is if you do a knock-knock scan, you can see that there's a...
Wait, what's a knock-knock scan?
So knock-knock is a scanner you can put on your macOS system that looks for anything that a sneaky piece of malware would install in your system. So this is kernel extensions, launch items, library inserts, cron jobs. Like if you have a cron job running on your computer that you didn't set, like that's not good.
That's something you'd want to know about.
Yeah. So login, logout hooks, periodic scripts. You can do a scan and see all this stuff. You can click on it. You can submit it to VirusTotal. Like I love this feature where you can just, if you see something suspicious, you can just click on it and it automatically submits a binary to VirusTotal and tells you the result.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's really cool. So if you were infected by the Wild Pressure, if you ran a knock-knock scan, you would see Python has installed a launch item. And then you can see, if you inspect it, this code right here. Guard.py being the thing that we're looking for as the kind of like infectious agent.
This sounds like
you can see guard.py is also the process argument here.
A tool that would be cool to try out for a live stream or...
What, block or the virus?
The block. Just like go through and do a Mac security focused
Yeah, if you guys want us to install like a keylogger and like a couple other things on a macOS system, and then like you show a couple security tools that will reveal it and how that would look, let us know right now. And also in the comments, just let us know if you want us to do that, because we absolutely can like install like a backdoor and do a couple other things, because we've shown how to do that before, and we can show you what it would look like to come up on an infected computer and be like, all right, like how can we figure out using some free tools what to do. Again, Patrick Wardle makes such excellent tools for a macOS system, and he's such an awesome dude. So if you want to see some of the ways that it's possible to use free tools to detect that, let us know, and also install them for yourself, because frankly, we love these tools. I use them myself.
They said yes.
Well, did all of you say yes? All of you say yes, and we'll do it. No, we'll do it. I think that would be really valuable.
The 8 people who disliked that video said yes.
Well, I don't care about their opinions. Clearly, they have bad taste. Okay, so I was doing some OSINT research last night. I'm doing some training for Maltego, and yikes! I was just using whoismcafee.com as a domain in an OSINT search, and all of a sudden I just saw this updated title that just went live like a couple days ago that just says "Dead Man Switch Activated." And
I forgot he had that.
Yeah, so not like
shit.
I don't know what that means. I didn't really have much time to investigate, but if anyone knows like what is going on like this, are missiles being launched? Has data like from a cursory glance? It looks like they're just like selling more NFTs because he was really into NFTs for a while. But yeah, if anybody knows what's going on with this, please let me know because like yikes, like that's you never want to see that. Never want to see that. Also. So ransomware again is a big problem, and depending on where it's deployed, it can cause real-life consequences. An entire German district has declared a disaster because the administration expects their IT system to be down for at least a week.
Oh
so this article is in German. I've retweeted it so you can find it on my
Sprachen
Twitter.
Sie Deutsch?
I have this really cool translator thing where I can just translate instantly, and there we go.
Oh,
Now I do.
It's like magic.
Ich spreche kein Deutsch. But yeah, so you can see they've declared a disaster after the attack. I'm not totally sure if they've encrypted and stolen the data. Yes, they tend to do that in ransomware. The situation is shitty, but not hopeful.
I love that
I have to
Translate
love.
also
Yeah, I
sad.
have to love the German press and also like this translation. This is if companies did honest like PR releases about like ransomware attacks, it would essentially be this. They could just copy and paste this. I kind of want that in a sticker because I think that sums up the situation overall, maybe. So solutions are sought in this weekend. No, you can't register your vehicle because the IT system is down. So like obviously like this is pretty inconvenient if they're
Yeah.
able to shut down like the registration for like a department that performs critical services like DMV registration.
And also that's spooky because like what data would they have had access to? Like all the vehicle records? Does that mean they had, identifying information on people? That could be potentially harmful. So
Yeah, well, I don't know if they downloaded data. So for now, it looks like maybe they were caught in the periphery of this other attack, and they just didn't happen to have backups.
that is something I find interesting because it seems that ransomware grew out of the kind of philosophy that the data is most valuable to the person whose data it is. But it seems like some of these ransomwares are hitting companies where it would be like, actually, I think that would be very useful information to a hacker, but then they just encrypt it because they're like, well, I'm going to get more money from the company.
Well, no, it's usually like, do they have access? It's like, it's
Yeah.
one thing to blast out a binary that encrypts everything in its wake. It's another thing entirely to, like get into the system,
Right.
infiltrate the email, monitor the employee, and like perform like a spear phishing attack. One of them is like automated fire and forget. Like this guy might not have even written the malware. He might have just bought it, The other one requires like an active attack, like a well-resourced adversary who has a lot of resources and is able to stay in a network and be persistent and do the low and slow attack thing. It's just kind of a different profile. Because now a lot of these are commercialized attacks that are wide scale and they are, designed to
hit a bunch of companies and just get the lowest hanging fruit.
Exactly.
Whereas,
Exactly.
like, I feel with the double extraction, you kind of had to do a targeted attack on a company.
Yeah. All right. Hey, finally a story from Michael. Sorry. Nope. Sorry. Cryptocurrency.
Got me
again.
all excited about
Dang
the
it.
crypto.
So, Bigfoot owners are safe, but cryptocurrency owners are not because there's apparently an ongoing attack against cryptocurrency exchanges and wallets. So, there's multiple different methods being used to ransack these, but the most common seems to be SIM swapping. So bypassing two-factor authentication and then SIM swap attacks are noted as ways that people are being attacked by this, but also social engineering. It seems like impersonating payment platforms or cryptocurrency exchange support staff in phone calls initiated by victims. So it looks like they're giving out phone numbers, which look like they are connected to the cryptocurrency exchange, and they are basically like getting information they need to complete the attack by sending like a customer support looking email or something like that, and then tricking people into engaging over the phone and giving out too much information.
Whoa.
So this is an ongoing attack. Zam notes that this is hot off the press, and also thank you, Zam, for this because that is from Zam. But yeah, so if you are a cryptocurrency wallet owner, you definitely need to lock down with two-factor authentication and make sure that, it can't be taken over with a SIM swapping attack. It's very, when you have that much money in a cryptocurrency wallet and it allows a hardware token, you might as well spend like $30 to $50 on a couple hardware tokens and use those rather than have a single SIM swapping attack be able to take over your entire account.
Yeah,
that is all I'm saying.
That's pretty spooky, and I think that is one of the reasons, like, if you do have crypto, to split it up among multiple wallets by, multiple vendors. Maybe have like the little, titanium cards that you like stamp your recovery code on and then put it in a safe somewhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, sure, but also if you just get hardware tokens, they would need to sneak into your house at night.
That's true.
To like break into your account, which is most people aren't willing to do. Just be on your guard, crypto people. So this is a resource I'd seen up, and it's funny because Patrick Wardle has a tool called ransomware, which detects anything that's encrypting too many files too quickly and gives you the ability to shut down the process if you don't recognize it, which Adobe trips all the time. But this is something similarly named, which allows you to identify where ransomware payments are going. So I believe it's probably looking at like Bitcoin transactions and stuff like that.
Right.
You can see the family of the ransomware by the Bitcoin address.
Oh.
QLocker, Revol.
NetWalker is the biggest payout, seems. Okay.
You mean Revol?
No, go up.
Oh, up. Okay.
To that graph. Like, that one's getting way more payments. Is that like a... I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Oh, and it's in USD, so it's not just like it's hitting lots of smaller companies. It's getting the most money. $3 million. It's a little chunk of change.
Yeah. So you can see latest reports. You can see. You can also contribute to it. So yeah, this is really cool. I like it for doing analytics, and I'm sure Michael will probably be using it for some other stuff he's doing.
Definitely last week in ransomware.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. So. It has been reported that Russian hackers were behind a breach of a Republican subcontractor. So far they say that no RNC data was stolen, but it's still pretty early in this breach. I actually don't have a ton of details other than they've attributed it to a Russian hacking group, aka Cozy Bear, APT29. So again, we still don't know exactly what was taken or what was done here. We just know that the attack has been detected and they are currently working on diagnosing it. I guess we'll probably see some more fallout from this in the future, but for now, it's still an interesting attack.
I'm always a little skeptical when people say they've been breached and then they're like, but don't worry, your data's fine. Like, can you actually confirm that real quick for me? I need to make sure, like, I don't trust you.
Yeah, and of course, this is the same group that was implicated in the SolarWinds cyber attack last December, which impacted like 9 different government agencies in the United States. So this is, this is just like an ongoing attack from a very dangerous attack vector. So, we mentioned this earlier. Hackers used a unsecured API to dump the private information of Getter. And this was breached online. You can see there's lots of different data that was available there. So, the breaches on these sorts of social media profiles that are set up by people who like do not seem to be super technical continues to go on and on and on. Oh my gosh. There also, because email addresses were released, it's very likely that there can be follow-up attacks, like looking for password resets or anything that is trying to phish them. So if you are a user of this social media network, good luck, because a lot of data has now been exposed, making you a very easy target for phishing attacks and other sorts of follow-up attacks, because they gathered a lot of data and they proceeded to give it out to unknown parties because they didn't secure their API. Whoops.
Oh, hey. Speaking of API videos, there might be an API video out very soon on the Hack5 channel.
Yes, this
Stay
is true.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, so Microsoft has released a patch to the Print Nightmare Windows Print Spooler vulnerability, but it doesn't work on everything. There's still some settings that can cause it to be able to execute. They did not fix everything. So this is an ongoing situation, and it's a little bit... I'm not going to go into it too much, but if you're worried about the Print Nightmare, it's not over. So please...
Your Print Nightmare is not done printing.
Your Print Nightmare is not quite over. Right, and of course we've already covered this one. These Revel used a 0-day in the
Revel?
Revel. How would you like to pronounce it?
Are evil is, I think, what the comment section decided on.
I don't like it.
Okay, it's Revel.
Cool. Revel used a 0-day, but again, this was something that was about to be fixed, and because they had to rush it, they weren't able to get everything they wanted. Michael was mentioning 70 million. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So basically, the way I understand it is they issued a blanket kind of ransom, saying like, okay, all these companies got hit by a ransomware. Y'all collectively have to pay us 70 million, which I found very questionable because that seems like a desperation move, and that's where I was talking earlier. Like, it makes more sense. Oh, they had to rush this out the door because, like, why as a company would you do that? You just wait on a bigger company to pay the ransom for you. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And then I think a couple days later, or in some closed source conversation, they were like trying to decrease it to 50 million. It just smelled very desperate.
This is such a sketchy grouch. I was like watching the instances just plummet. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Whoops. Okay.
It's like everyone realized they have a backup and they can just use the backup.
So there was a remote command injection apparently in PowerShell. That's not good. And Microsoft warns users to update PowerShell as soon as possible. I haven't seen a ton of details about this because this came out rather recently, but it is a critical vulnerability with a score of 9.8. 9.8 out of 10.
That's high, isn't it?
Out of 10.
I mean,
Almost
it's not as high as 9.9.
Almost a perfect skating routine. Yeah, so this is 9.8 is definitely worth your attention. So please, if you got Windows, if you're using PowerShell, make sure to update it because remote command injection is bad, and 9.8 is especially bad.
You just delay your Windows update, and you can always just wait until tomorrow.
Oh God. And so we discussed this a little bit, but the incomplete Print Nightmare patch has failed to fully fix this issue. So if you are worried about this, again, please pay attention to the news around it. You can find more information on this Bleeping Computer article, which we'll post in the chat. But yeah, this is an ongoing thing that has not fully been patched, and a lot of researchers are pointing out that, like, yes, this patches some of the problem, but it does not get at the root issue, which is very frustrating.
Yeah. And we're almost out of time. So if y'all have any comments or questions that you would like answered, drop those in the chat below, or you can leave them in the comments below, and we'll get them on the Q&A next week.
All right, we've got two more.
Okay.
So one of them is, Michael, do you know what jackpotting is? An ATM?
Yeah, that's when you make the ATM just go, pew, 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 money.
Well, hopefully the ATM is not shooting at you. But
Okay.
yes, it makes a sort of whirring noise
Yeah,
while it spits out cash. Yeah, so
Nicholas
that's,
whir.
of course, that's the burr.
Burr.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
I don't know the memes. I'm a millennial. I
Yikes.
can't help it.
So in this case, that's kind of like the thing that everyone's hoping for. Like, you walk up to an ATM and you're able to get it to just spit out money. Well, I mean, traditionally you had to like try to jack into it, update the firmware, like whatever you're going to try to do. But in this case, they were able to use NFC. So a lot of cards now support NFC, and in this case, this researcher Joseph Rodriguez was able to send a bunch of like malformed NFC packets and crashed the ATM. Which, if you know about security, you know that if you manage to crash a system, it often allows you to do stuff that you normally would never be able to do.
Fun fact. There are several DEF CON talks on jackpotting and or hacking ATMs, and it kind of amazes me that ATMs to this day still use like Windows CE. It's like, I'm sorry, what? Like, and security is like so far, or cybersecurity in particular, is so far back in a lot of these ATM vendors' minds, and particularly like the people who are actually placing these ATMs in businesses. They're so far removed from the manufacturer, they barely even know how to fix a printer jam on their ATM, right? Like, so
yeah, so this is something,
pretty...
this was literally a buffer overflow that he explained. So basically by being able to send a packet that was like hundreds of times larger than the ATM was expecting, he was able to create a buffer overflow and crash it. And be able to do things that he was definitely not supposed to do on the
Mm.
ATM. So super cool to see these sorts of vulnerabilities, and like NFC is definitely something that's being integrated into a lot of different devices now, and might maybe cause some unexpected problems. So yes, really cool vulnerability, and something that you love to see. So let's talk about password managers. A while ago, there was a bunch of people on Twitter who were like, hey, I just had one of my accounts broken into and I used a password manager to do this. Like, and the password was a very long, seemingly secure password. Like, I don't know what's up with this. Well, maybe they were using Kaspersky Password Manager. So this was so not random, you guys. Like the purpose of a password manager generating password is it's supposed to be long, secure, and random. The problem was if Michael had a Kaspersky instance and I had a Kaspersky instance, and we were both in different parts of the world filling out a password form at the same instant, and we both clicked on generate a password, we would have got the same password in that moment, because Kaspersky generates a new password with the seed being the time in seconds.
In seconds.
Yeah, so
not even milliseconds.
Yeah, not even in milliseconds.
Oh
so
my
that
gosh.
means that there's only like 18,000 different potential passwords, like from a single day, if you know what day that person made their password, or around like what day. So that's like, I think in the article it was talking about that's like essentially like a 3-character password. Like it's just not, it's not good.
Looks
Yeah.
like some fancy math stuff.
Oh yeah, so this is the research paper, and if you want to learn some more about how this was done, how they found out about this, it's just, like it's a very bad vulnerability when like your seemingly randomly generated password is the same as everybody else's seemingly randomly generated password for any reason. So yeah, this was a big yikes, and it does kind of answer how some people using randomly generated passwords from a password manager might have ended up getting their passwords breached, because if it's not really random, then that's exactly how that sort of thing happens. So pretty wild this week, seeing both the ATM dump and then also the password manager. Like, I mean, in addition to all the ransomware stuff, it's just some of these are like some pretty fundamental stuff where I imagine a lot of people who feel like they were doing a really good job with security were really confused when like their account was broken into with like a 29 character long password or something like that, that's supposed to be randomly generated.
Yeah, you know, you're always having what I call those like elevator conversations when you tell people, oh, you're a hacker, and they're like, what do I do to lock down my stuff? This would be one of the 3 things I tell them to do, like use a VPN, use a password manager.
Yeah, apparently we have to be more specific,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Like, which makes it harder to give good security advice. So yeah, it's a bummer when people like try to provide a service to make people more secure, and then in the end they make them much less secure. But it happens. So, all right, I want to thank everyone who's been in the chat today. It's always super fun to do these live and get some, again, Zam also has been pointing out some great stories that we actually missed. So you can thank him as well for being a great part of the show and really contributing a lot to our community. Michael for his commentary on cryptozoology, always invaluable.
Indeed.
And yeah, all of you for leaving comments, letting us know what you want in future episodes. Yeah, we really appreciate it. So make sure to stay subscribed, check out our other content. You can also check out other great Varonis content on the Threat Update, which is on the Varonis brand channel, where our sometimes co-host Killian goes over what real companies are doing to protect themselves against ongoing attacks. And make sure to subscribe and share this with your friends if you like it.
Hack the notification bell.
Hack the... what Michael said, because we always love new people in the chat, and we are excited to have more people in the comments telling us what kind of stuff they want to do next. So we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.